At the entrance of City Hall, my fiancé announced in public, "She will always come before you." That was the 32nd time our marriage registration was cancelled, all because his childhood sweetheart had twisted her ankle. Everyone was waiting for me to break down, to give up, to keep swallowing the humiliation. Instead, I dialed a number on the spot and accepted another man's proposal from 3 years ago. 10 minutes later, a black motorcade blocked off the street. The true power holder of the Ford family knelt on one knee before me. I went from a humiliated fiancé to the woman he had to kneel down and call aunt. Outside City Hall, the New York sun was blinding. Lucas was holding Chloe's hand as he told me for the 32nd time, "Ivy, we can't register today. Chloe twisted her ankle. She's all alone, it's too pitiful." Chloe stood on one foot, eyes rimmed red. She was wearing 10-centimeter high heels. "Lucas, I'm really fine," her voice trembled. "Go register with Sister Ivy. I'll be okay by myself." Same old routine. Twisted ankle. Loneliness. Moral blackmail. For 3 years, I'd spent my youth waiting for this man. Today was our 32nd scheduled registration. The first 31 cancellations were all because of Chloe. She had a fever. She got dumped. She failed a job interview and needed comfort. Today, she twisted her ankle. I looked calmly at Lucas. He was wearing the suit I bought him, holding the marriage documents we were supposed to use today. "Ivy, try to understand," Lucas said with a frown. "Chloe only has me in New York. I'm your fiancé." I said, "Exactly," he replied matter-of-factly. "So you should be more generous." Chloe gently tugged on his sleeve. "Forget it, Lucas. Don't make Sister Ivy upset." "She's not upset," Lucas said, turning to me. "Right, Ivy? You've always been the sensible one." A crowd began to gather. Many couples were lined up outside City Hall, all watching us. Lucas raised his voice. "Even if we got married today, Ivy, you still need to understand." He paused, then said clearly, "Chloe will always come before you. That's my principle." The air went silent. Chloe lowered her head, a faint curve at the corner of her lips. Onlookers sucked in their breath. Someone lifted a phone. For the past 3 years, I would have cried, begged, asked why. Today, I didn't. I took my phone out of my bag and dialed a number I'd saved long ago but never called. It rang 3 times before connecting. "It's me," I said. "The proposal you made last time, I accept." Lucas froze, then burst out laughing. "Ivy, you hired a man to act?" he mocked. "Trying to make me jealous?" Chloe spoke softly. "Sister, no one wants someone who's desperate. Don't do this." I looked at Lucas. "When he gets here, the one kneeling will be you." Lucas laughed even harder. "Everyone in New York knows I'm part of the Ford family. Who's worthy of making me kneel?" He straightened his back. "The Ford family. Old New York money. Indeed. No one dared mess with them. But I knew the secret. Lucas, the adopted son, held no real power." From the other end of the line came a low male voice. "Location, City Hall entrance." I said, "Your son wants to be someone else's lapdog." I couldn't stand watching it. I hung up. Lucas's expression changed. "Who did you call? Scared?" I asked. "Why would I be scared?" He raised his voice. "My dad is in a meeting today. He doesn't have time for your little stunt." I smiled. Not his adoptive father. Someone higher. In the few seconds after the call ended, the atmosphere grew tense. Lucas, probably trying to save face, suddenly raised his voice and said to Chloe, "Oh right, almost forgot something important. Didn't you want to start a business? I'll give you a gift." The crowd's attention shifted back. Chloe's eyes lit up. "Really? What gift?" Lucas shot me a smug glance, showing off his generosity. "I remember you studied computer science. I happen to own a tech company, Nebula Tech. It has an office in Manhattan. It's yours." I lifted my gaze. Nebula Tech. 3 years ago, to celebrate our engagement, Lucas's father had placed it into the engagement trust. The company was being held in my name. It was meant to be formally transferred to me once we got married. "You don't have the authority," I said calmly. Lucas laughed loudly. "We're not married yet, of course the assets are mine. You really think you're already the lady of the Ford family?" He pulled out his phone. "I'll have legal take care of it right now." He dialed and put it on speaker. The call connected. "Attorney Zhang, Lucas said arrogantly. Transfer Nebula Tech to Chloe immediately. Start the process. I'm sorry, Mr. Lucas. The lawyer said coldly. You don't have disposal rights. Lucas froze. What did you say? Nebula Tech is part of the engagement trust. The beneficiary is Miss Ivy. Before the marriage is officially registered, you have no right to transfer, sell, or gift it. I'm a member of the Ford family, Lucas roared. But you are not the trust's authorizing party. The lawyer paused. According to old Mr. Ford's stipulations, you only have supervisory rights over trust assets, not disposal rights. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Chloe's face turned pale. Lucas, isn't the company yours? Of course it is. Lucas spun toward me. What did you do? I walked toward him slowly, word by word. Didn't you notice, Lucas? All these years, every document you signed needed a second signature to be valid. Investments, transfers, real estate purchases. You thought it was a family rule, but actually, I smiled. Someone has been controlling you. Lucas's pupils contracted. Because you were never the real one in power. I said, you're just an adopted orphan, without even voting rights in the family. Chloe stepped back, as if seeing Lucas for the first time. You said you were the heir, she whispered, trembling. Lucas's face flushed red. Just then, the sound of synchronized brakes came from the distance. A black motorcade arrived at City Hall. Lucas's eyes lit up. My dad's here. See? My dad came to back me up. He shoved past me and rushed toward the curb. Chloe instantly switched expressions, all obedient and soft, and hurried after him. I stayed where I was. I didn't move. The car doors opened. It wasn't his adoptive father who stepped out. It was someone higher. 12 black executive vans sealed off the entire street in front of City Hall. By each door stood bodyguards in black suits with earpieces. Pedestrians gasped. With this kind of presence, did the president show up? Those are Ford family plates. The lead car, that's reserved for the family head. The smug look on Lucas's face froze the moment he recognized the plates. That wasn't his adoptive father's car. It was a higher tier. In the center of the motorcade, the door of a stretched sedan slowly opened. A polished, custom-made leather shoe stepped out. Then came the full, oppressive figure, Julian Ford, the true power holder of the Ford family, the elder brother of Lucas's adoptive father, the man who called the shots. 45 years old, his presence alone muted the entire scene. He wore a black overcoat, nearly 6'3", sharp, cold features. When his gaze swept over the crowd, even the air felt heavier. Lucas froze, then burst into wild joy. Uncle! He rushed forward and bent at a full 90 degrees. What brings you here personally? Is it for my wedding? Julian didn't look at him. His eyes passed over everyone and landed on me. Chloe quickly fixed her hair, put on her sweetest smile, and said softly, Uncle Julian. Hello, I'm Lucas's friend. Julian didn't hear her. He walked straight ahead. The bodyguards cleared a path. The crowd parted instinctively. Lucas hurried after him in small steps, talking nonstop. Uncle, today was supposed to be the day Ivy and I register our marriage. But there was a small accident. Chloe hurt her foot. So, Julian stopped, turned, looked at Lucas. You said, his voice low and calm. Today you're registering with whom? Lucas stammered. With Ivy. My fiancé. Julian repeated. Then he smiled. A cold smile. How is it that I don't know? He said slowly. That my wife has become your fiancé? Dead silence. Lucas stood there with his mouth open, like a fish out of water. Chloe's smile shattered on her face. The crowd exploded. Wife? That woman is Julian Ford's wife? So Lucas was trying to steal his uncle's wife? I didn't move. Julian stepped forward again, this time straight toward me. He was much taller than me, his shadow falling over my body. 32 times. He said. I looked up. You remember clearly. I knew every time it was cancelled. Julian took a black velvet box from his coat pocket. I was waiting. He opened it. The diamond ring flashed violently in the sunlight. The main stone was at least 10 carats, surrounded by a halo of pink diamonds. Not an ordinary engagement ring, an auction-grade collector's piece. Someone in the crowd screamed. That's the Eternal Heart from last month's Christie's auction. $20 million. Chloe stared at the ring. then at the tiny diamond ring Lucas had given her. Her face turned paper white. Julian went down on one knee. The entire crowd inhaled sharply. The head of the Ford family, one of the most powerful men in New York, was kneeling outside City Hall. 3 years ago, I proposed, he said, holding up the ring. You said you needed time to think. Have I finally received your answer today? I looked at him, then at the petrified Lucas and Chloe beside us. You're a little late, I said. Sorry, Julian replied. A company meeting ran long. If you were 5 minutes later, I said calmly, I might have seriously considered marrying someone else. Julian's eyes darkened. You wouldn't dare. He stood up and pulled me into his arms. The movement was forceful, non-negotiable. We're registering today, he said close to my ear. I'm not asking him. I'm informing you. Then he turned to everyone, his voice clear and commanding. Allow me to introduce her. Ivy Grant, my wife. The sole heir of the Grant family. She should have entered the Ford family 3 years ago, but was delayed by certain people. His gaze swept over Lucas. Now, the misunderstanding is resolved. Today, my wife and I are officially registering our marriage. If anyone objects. He paused. You may speak now. No one made a sound. Lucas's world collapsed in that instant. That's impossible, Lucas shouted. Ivy is my fiancée. She's been with me for 3 years. Uncle, you've made a mistake. Julian didn't loosen his hold on me. He spoke calmly. 3 years ago, I brought Ivy to New York and arranged for her to meet members of the Ford family for a strategic marriage. You, as an adopted son, were assigned to receive her. Instead, you publicly claimed she was your fiancée. You lived off her trust fund, stayed in her properties, drove her cars, and you made her wait to register the marriage 32 times. With every sentence, Lucas's face drained of color. I thought you wanted me to marry her, Lucas said, trembling. Are you worthy? Julian asked. 3 words. Like a slap. A marriage between the Grant family and the Ford family is a top-tier merger. You, a powerless adopted son with no bloodline, what makes you qualified? Chloe grabbed Lucas's arm. Lucas, is he telling the truth? You're not actually the heir? I am. Lucas shook her off. Uncle, I've contributed so much to the company over the years. Contributed? Julian laughed. Investing with Ivy's money, losing it, then having the family cover the losses, this is what you call contribution? He took out his phone and dialed. Freeze all accounts under Lucas's name. Strip him of all positions. Effective immediately. Remove him from the family registry. The voice on the other end answered. Yes, sir. Lucas collapsed to the ground. Julian turned to me. As for Nebula Tech, it was yours all along. No need to wait until marriage. It's yours now. He motioned with his hand. A lawyer stepped forward and handed over documents. Sign here. The company is officially yours. Julian handed me the pen. Additionally, the $8 million lost over the past 3 years from investments made in your name will be reimbursed by the family. The funds have already been transferred to your account. I signed. The sound of the pen moving across paper rang clear and final. Lascal lay sprawled on the ground. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot. Ivy, you've been playing me this whole time? I bent down and said softly. 3 years ago, when we first met, I told you I was Julian's fiancée. You said it was a family arrangement and that you didn't mind. You said you loved me, that you'd help me get out of the engagement. I gave you 3 years. You gave me 32 humiliations. I straightened up and held up the signed documents. Now, the game is over. Call me Auntie. My dear nephew. Inside City Hall, we took the fast-track lane. Julian had arranged everything in advance. 10 minutes later, I walked out holding our marriage certificate, red cover, gold-stamped letters, legally married. Lascal and Chloe were still waiting outside, watched by bodyguards. I walked up to Lucas and raised the certificate. Take a good look. He stared at it like it was a venomous snake. Say it, Julian ordered from behind me. Lascal's lips trembled. Aunt, wrong, Julian said. Call her little aunt. By seniority, I should have been aunt, his peer's wife. But Julian insisted on pressing him down another level. Little aunt, younger, more humiliating. Lascal refused to speak. Julian nodded at the bodyguards. They pressed down on Lucas's shoulders. Kneel and say it, Julian said. Lascelles' knees buckled, and he dropped onto the city hall steps. The marble floor was icy. Phones were everywhere. Filming. A little, his voice was hoarse. Little Aunt. I tilted my head slightly. I can't hear you. Little Aunt, he shouted, tears streaming down his face. Good boy. I patted his head, like petting a dog. Chloe tried to slip away. A bodyguard blocked her. As for you, I sized her up. Does your foot still hurt? Chloe trembled. And no, it doesn't, that's good. I smiled. Don't wear heels that high in the future. You might really twist your ankle. I turned and linked my arm with Julian's. Let's go home. Husband. All right. The black motorcade drove us away. In the rearview mirror, Lucas was still kneeling on the steps. Chloe was pulling at him, but he wouldn't get up. The crowd kept filming. Tomorrow's headlines were guaranteed. Satisfying? This was only the beginning. Ford family estate. Long Island Manor. The grand hall looked like a palace. Its walls lined with century-old portraits. The main family members were all present, seated along both sides of a long table. Julian and I sat at the head. Lascelles was dragged in by bodyguards and forced to stand in the center. Chloe followed, shrinking into a corner. From today onward, Ivy is the lady of this family, Julian announced, his voice echoing. Any objections? No one spoke. Good. He raised a hand. A lawyer stepped forward and placed a stack of documents in front of Lucas. Sign here. Renounce all inheritance rights. All properties, vehicles, and shares under your name will be returned to the family. The remaining funds in your accounts will be treated as compensation to Ivy for emotional damages over the past 3 years. Lascelles flipped through the papers, his hands shaking. This is stripping me of everything? Yes, Julian said calmly. You never had a self to strip. What exactly are you leaving with? I won't sign, Lascelles yelled. Julian lifted his eyes. 2 bodyguards stepped forward and pinned Lucas's arms. The lawyer grabbed his thumb and pressed it into the ink pad. No, Uncle, I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Lascelles struggled. His fingerprint landed on every page. Effective. Chloe rushed forward. You can't do this. Lucas is your adopted son. You're bullying him. The lawyer pulled out another document. Miss Chloe, these are records of transfers you received from Lucas's account over the past 3 years. Total, $420,000. Additionally, the apartment you lived in under Lucas's name, the car you drove, and the luxury items you purchased, all are family assets. You have 2 options, return them, or be sued. Chloe froze. I don't have the money, then you'll go to prison, the lawyer said flatly. Misappropriation carries a sentence of up to 3 years. Chloe collapsed to the floor. I lightly tapped the table. Everyone turned to me. The apartment and the car, no need for her to return them. I said. Chloe's eyes lit up. Sell them directly and donate the money to a women's protection foundation. I added. As for the bags and jewelry she's wearing, I looked at the bodyguards. Strip them off. Yes, madam. They moved immediately. Chloe screamed. Her mouth covered. The dress she wore. The bag she carried. The necklace around her neck, everything was taken off on the spot. In the end, she was left in only her underwear. A bodyguard tossed her an old coat. Get out, I said. She wrapped herself in it and ran out of the hall crying. Lascelles knelt there, watching everything, his face ashen. Now, I said, looking at him, it's your turn. Little Aunt, he crawled to my feet. Please, give me a way to live, I bent down and whispered. 3 years ago, the first time you canceled our registration for Chloe, I had a 40-degree fever and was hospitalized. You said, she needs me more. Now tell me, who needs whom more? I straightened. Throw him out. The bodyguards dragged Lucas away. His cries faded into the distance. The hall fell silent again. Julian squeezed my hand. Feel better? Half, I said. And the other half? Waiting for them to tear each other apart. 3 days later, I was reviewing reports in the family office when the secretary buzzed in. Madam, Miss Chloe is outside the main gate. She says she wants to see you. Let her in. 5 minutes later, Chloe walked in, eyes swollen, wearing a plain dress. She dropped to her knees. Sister Ivy. I was wrong, call me madam, I said. She bit her lip. Madam. I really know I was wrong. Lucas lied to me. He said he was the heir, that's why I got close to him. Oh? He said you were clinging to him and that he couldn't get rid of you. I just wanted to help him, she cried pitifully. I'm a victim too. I set down my pen. So the 32 times you twisted your ankle, those were fake? She froze. And all those midnight calls saying you were scared, an act? And hinting that he should buy me cheap gifts while buying you jewelry, just coincidences? I stood up and walked over to her. Chloe, this whole fake innocent green tea act, I got sick of it 3 years ago. She looked up at me, tears swimming in her eyes. I really never meant to hurt you, no. I smiled. You did. You wanted my man, my money, and my position. You just didn't expect my man to be that powerful, my money to be that deep, and my position to be completely out of your reach. Her face went white. I pressed the intercom on the desk. Security, escort the guest out. Wait! Chloe suddenly jumped up, her expression twisting. If you won't give me a way to live, then don't blame me. She staggered backward and slammed herself into the corner of the bookcase. Her forehead scraped open, blood seeping out. Then she screamed. Help! The madam pushed me. The door burst open. Julian walked in at that exact moment. Chloe lunged toward him. Uncle Julian! She hit me! I just came to apologize and Julian sidestepped her and went straight to me. Are you hurt? She ran into the cabinet. I said, I know. Julian didn't even glance at Chloe. He spoke toward the doorway. Pull the surveillance. 3 minutes later, a tablet was handed over. The footage clearly showed Chloe crashing into the shelf by herself. Nice performance. Julian finally looked at her. Too bad you're not smart enough. Chloe trembled. You just said we wouldn't give you a way to live? Julian asked. Then you won't have one. He made a call. Notify all affiliated companies, partners, clubs, and private venues. Add one name to the list, Chloe Miller. Permanent blacklist. The voice on the other end replied. Understood, sir. Chloe completely broke down. You can't do this. I still have a life. Your life ended the moment you chose to be a mistress. I said calmly. Today is just the execution date. The bodyguards dragged her out. Her screams faded down the hall. Julian wrapped an arm around me. What about the other one? Loscal? I smiled. Let him and Chloe tear each other apart. The blacklist went into effect. Chloe couldn't find a job, couldn't rent an apartment. Even restaurants refused to serve her. Loscal was expelled from the family. His accounts wiped clean. All he had left were the clothes on his back. The two of them ended up crammed into the worst motel in Brooklyn, $30 a night. The first week, Chloe still comforted him. It's okay. We'll get through this together. The second week, she started complaining. This is all your fault. You lied and said you were the heir. By the third week, they were fighting. You spent all my money, Loscal yelled. Those bags, those jewels, you bought them yourself. Chloe screamed. Now you care about money? When you were sleeping with me, you didn't say a word. The motel owner threw them out. They ended up on the streets. In the fourth week, loan sharks came knocking. To plug the hole, Loscal borrowed $50,000. The interest snowballed to $200,000. He couldn't pay. The collectors broke one of his legs. Chloe looked at him limping, disgust clear in her eyes. That night, from the floor-to-ceiling windows of my luxury apartment by Central Park, I saw them at the street corner below. Chloe tried to grab Lascal's last bit of cash. He refused. They wrestled. She slapped him. You useless piece of trash. If you hadn't promised me wealth, would I ever have followed you? He shoved her. Slut. You've slept with so many men, don't think I didn't know. They screamed at each other in the street. Punches. Kicks. In the end, Chloe got the money and ran. Loscal lay on the ground like a dead dog. I closed the curtains. Done watching? Julian asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Yeah. How do you feel? Nothing. I said. Strangers. He kissed my hair. That's good. Will they come after us? I asked. They will. Julian's eyes darkened. That's why we'll set a trap. A month later, Julian and I held our wedding of the century at the family estate. Media coverage worldwide. Live broadcast. Celebrities from every circle attended. I wore a custom wedding gown worth tens of millions. Julian's suit was hand-stitched by royal tailors. vows, rings, kiss. Perfect. Until Chloe appeared. No one knew how she slipped in, dressed as a server. As the banquet began, just as Julian and I were cutting the cake, she rushed the stage, a knife in her hand. The entire venue screamed. The bodyguards moved. Julian raised his hand to stop them. He had known she would come. IV. Chloe screamed, eyes wild. Give me money! 10 million, or I'll kill you. I looked at her calmly. You're holding the knife backwards. She froze and looked down. The blade was pointing at herself. Panicking, she flipped it around. In the crowd, Lascal was there too, sitting in a wheelchair, allowed in by security. Chloe, calm down, he shouted. Calm my ass. Chloe sobbed. We're starving while they're throwing a wedding. Why should they get everything? She pointed the knife at me. You ruined my life. You ruined it yourself. I said, I don't care. Either give me the money, or we die together. She charged. Julian pulled me behind him, but in the next second, Chloe suddenly changed direction and pressed the knife to the neck of the nearest little girl, a guest's daughter. Transfer the money now, or I kill her. The room suffocated. The child was too scared to even cry. Suddenly Lascal screamed, Chloe, don't hurt her. Kidnap Ivy instead, she's worth more. Everyone turned to him. His eyes were deranged. Take her. Julian will pay more. Human nature, fully exposed. Chloe hesitated. Julian spoke. Let her go. I'll give you the money. Really? Chloe's hands shook. Really? Julian gestured to his assistant. Bring the checkbook. The assistant stepped forward. Julian signed and tore off a check. 10 million. Take it. The check fluttered to the floor. Chloe stared at it, then at the little girl, then at me. Greed and fear fought across her face. 3, 2, 1. I moved. I kicked off my heels and sprinted forward barefoot. Chloe's attention was on the check. She was a second too slow. I stomped on the top of her foot. She screamed in pain. I drove my elbow into her wrist. The knife flew out of her hand. Julian scooped up the little girl and handed her to the bodyguards. They rushed in and pinned Chloe down, but she suddenly broke free and lunged for the knife on the floor. She grabbed it, turned, not toward me, but toward Lucas in the wheelchair. This is all your fault. You did this to me, she shrieked, plunging the blade into Lucas's abdomen. Lascal's eyes went wide in disbelief. Chloe pulled the knife out and tried to stab again. A bodyguard locked her from behind. She struggled, lost balance with him, and slammed into the balcony railing. The rotten railing snapped. Both of them fell. From the second-floor banquet hall, straight onto the stone floor below. A dull thud. Dead silence. Then screaming erupted. By the time the ambulance arrived, Chloe was already dead. She'd hit the back of her head, instant death. Lascal had a stab wound to the abdomen plus a fall. His spine was shattered. They saved his life, but he was paralyzed for good. The police arrived. Surveillance footage. Witnesses. Physical evidence. Chloe had committed armed kidnapping. Lucas had incited the crime. One dead. One critically injured, but the case was severe. The media covered everything live. Public opinion flipped overnight. People who once said I was ruthless now sympathized. The wife was the real victim, cheated on and nearly murdered. That trash couple got exactly what they deserved. Mrs. Ford acted in self-defense. Well done. The legal process concluded. Chloe was dead. Case closed. Lascal was convicted of kidnapping, but due to paralysis, his sentence was changed to lifetime home confinement under supervision. In effect, life under house arrest. Julian arranged for him to live in an old house in the suburbs, guarded by caregivers. Every day, staring at the ceiling, with nothing. I visited him once. A catheter tube, so thin he barely looked human. When he saw me, his eyes widened. Ivy, save me. How? I stood by the bed. Give me money, let me leave. No. I shook my head. You need to atone. I was wrong, he sobbed. I shouldn't have chosen Chloe. I should have gone to register with you properly. Which cancellation should you have thought that? I asked. He had no answer. The first time? The 10th? The 31st? I bent down and said softly, Lucas, I gave you 32 chances. You didn't choose me even once. Now, you don't get to choose anymore. I turned and left. Behind me, he wailed, like a dog. No one looked back. 3 months later, I officially joined the Ford family board. At the same time, the Grant and Ford families completed their asset merger. A new conglomerate was formed. I became co-CEO. At my first board meeting, the room was full of male executives, each wearing a different expression. I turned on the projector. First item, liquidate all invalid investments from the Lucas era. Estimated recovery, $200 million. Second, launch a women's entrepreneurship fund. I'll manage it personally. Third, all subsidiaries will undergo mandatory gender pay equity audits. Someone raised his hand. Madam, aren't these reforms a bit aggressive? I smiled. Who objects? No one spoke. Then it's approved. After the meeting, Julian was waiting in my office. That was powerful today, he said, smiling. I learned from you, I replied. He pulled me into his arms. I've already thought of tomorrow's headline. What is it? From cheated on wife to capital queen, Ivy Ford's road to revenge. I laughed. On interview day, the reporter asked exactly that, Madam. Some say your rise was driven by revenge. What do you think? I looked straight into the camera. It wasn't revenge. It was reclaiming what was always mine. My marriage, my wealth, my power, and I took them all back. That night, the interview went viral. Women everywhere shared it. She's unstoppable. This is what a real female lead looks like. The endings for the scumbag and the mistress were way too satisfying. I turned off the comments and curled up in Julian's arms. Tired? He asked. Yeah, then rest. No. I sat up. There's one last step. What? Go see him. The paralyzed man, living in regret. The suburban house felt more like a prison. The caregiver was a retired corrections officer, expressionless. Lascal lay on the nursing bed, staring at the ceiling. When I entered, his eyes shifted. Ivy, his voice was hoarse. How are you today? I sat down. It hurts, he cried. Everywhere, could you give me some painkillers? The doctor prescribed dosage is enough, I said. He fell silent, then suddenly asked, If I had registered with you the first time, what would things be like now? I looked at him. We would have married. You'd be an adopted Ford, respectable job, no real power. I'd be the Grant daughter, a political marriage pawn. Chloe would still appear. You'd still cancel registrations. Until one day, I couldn't take it anymore and divorced you. I paused. But in a divorce, I'd take all the assets. You'd still end up with nothing. So, Lucas, the ending was decided long ago. You just chose the most miserable version. He broke down completely. At night, the caregiver said he often screamed my name. Ivy, I regret it. If only I could start over. No one answered. The world had already turned the page. I was at the estate, planning the next acquisition with Julian. He was in the old house, counting cracks in the ceiling. Two worlds, never intersecting. The first snowfall in New York fell on Christmas Eve. At the estate, I built a snowman. Julian stood under the porch watching me, his gaze gentle. Careful, your hands will freeze, he said. I'm fine. I stuck a carrot in as the nose. In the distance, a supply transport truck passed down the road toward the suburbs. Supplies for Lascal. Once a week. I glanced once, then looked away. The fireworks are about to start, Julian said. We went back inside, by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. He wrapped his arms around me. Outside, fireworks shot up and exploded in brilliant color. All of New York was celebrating. New Year's wish? He asked. I already achieved it, I said. Me too. He kissed my forehead. From now on, every year will be like this. Deal. The snow kept falling, covering the estate, covering the roads, covering the old house, covering everything in the past. A new year, a new beginning.